What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Wednesday. That's right, it's hump day, but man, is it a crazy, wild day in the markets. The altcoins are absolutely going buck wild right now. XRP up over 16%, Ethereum another 6%. We just crossed $200 yesterday. Now we're up to 214. BNB is up 8.5%, and Bitcoin is down 0.23%. So is that it? Was that Bitcoin's run and now it's time to just take all your money and slam it all into the altcoins? Well, I mean, let's be realistic. You don't want to slam all your money into any one particular asset, right? But I do want to talk about it because this came very unexpected. I'm just going to be honest. I don't really think anyone was expecting this. It didn't really make sense in the charts to really see this type of a pump, right? The only thing that you can sort of surmise is that, well, if Bitcoin's not doing anything and it's just sort of going sideways, well, then maybe this is that opportunity to sort of, make as much as you can before Bitcoin's next big move, which we know is going to affect the altcoins. And it's going to have a pretty massive move probably within the next week. And I'm going to show you why. But the real question is, where is this money coming from? Because we saw right here, the altcoins, right? They were just basically being pushed down and down and down and down. And Bitcoin's price was also falling at the same time. But then we had this crazy pump. And it's so interesting to see what just peeling off a very small percentage of Bitcoin's market cap can do with the altcoins. So I do want to talk about that today. I want to discuss specifically what is going on. Should we throw all of our money into the altcoins right now? What is Bitcoin's next big move? And also, is this just some kind of manipulation? Because it does seem a little bit weird that we're having this kind of a pump. Everything's pumping, right? What's going on? So that's basically today's topic of conversation. If that sounds good to you, well, you know what to do. Also, if this is your first time checking out the Crypto Zombie channel and you're not subscribed, well, we do this every single day. And don't forget the Ledger Nano S giveaway every Monday. Yes, I finally went to the post office and picked them up. All you got to do is drop a comment on any video and you get to win one of these babies if you get randomly picked on Monday. So let's dive in. Let's give this a quick refresh live. Now, Bitcoin dominance is down another 0.3%, but the overall market cap is not really increasing at the rate that the altcoins are pumping, right? What does this tell me? Well, it tells me that if we don't have a lot of new money coming into the system, essentially, this could just be Bitcoin profits going into the altcoins, right? Is that a problem, though? Because that's not really bringing in new people into the space. Well, I do want to analyze that moving forward in just a second, but ABBC coin, 43%, Stellar up 38%, IOTA 23%, Ravencoin 17%, XRP 16%, Status 15, 0x 14, 13, look at these percentages. These are just crazy, guys. I mean, this reminds me, honestly, of like the 2017 days where just every other day it was like 20% pumps and everyone's just trying to hop to this coin and jump to that coin, and it was just madness, I mean, could we be starting a cycle? Is it an altcoin cycle? It could be. Also, did you guys look at CoinMarketCap yesterday? I took the screenshot. They actually, for some reason, Bitcoin just totally disappeared from the market. And some people that had sort of signals were getting these crazy alerts on their phone saying that Bitcoin had gone to zero. It was actually pretty funny, but they totally fixed it. Anyway, that being said, the real 24-hour volume is pretty damn low. But the interesting thing is, if we actually look over here, you have $543 million for Bitcoin, 432 for Ethereum, 354 for XRP. So you actually are seeing a lot of the current volume sort of getting distributed among the altcoins, right? So this is showing massive interests in the alts. Now, I do want to talk about Bitcoin super quick because Bitcoin is looking to have a very big move, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm looking at, and I do think it's going to be very soon. But you can see that dominance essentially hit this ceiling here, this resistance, and we've started pulling back. Now, I am looking for a possible retest around 65.74%. You can see Bitcoin had some struggles with it back here, pretty much in late 2017. But that being said, we are looking at this trend, and you could see Bitcoin dominance come down here and test, this line again, which would be very good for altcoins, because that would mean altcoins would be feeling the love while Bitcoin dominance would be pulling back, right? Now, having a look right here, we had a little bit of a dip this morning. We pulled out of the red zone and we pulled right back up into the blue zone again. Not the red zone, I'm sorry guys, but we got stomped out at the $10,166 basically support. That's been support pretty much for the past week. Now, this is what I'm talking about right here. If we zoom in, you could see that Bitcoin is essentially getting pushed down by this little resistance right here and this upward support. And we are having this sort of doji candle, which is telling me that the markets have absolutely no idea what they want to do when they're coming to Bitcoin. I mean, like basically what you're doing is you're just going up and down within a certain period and just ending exactly right back where you started, right? Now we are getting closer to backed. It is not it's actually very, very close. Closer than a lot of people think. I mean, it's literally right around the corner. Now, looking for the breakout, you can see Dan Tapiro. He says Bitcoin chart is very close to an upside breakout. Strong close over 10,700 trend line should really accelerate. Meanwhile, almost everyone else is looking at this triangle saying it's a descending wedge. We're going to fall down. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, well, that'd be great. Bitcoin will dump and the altcoins will pump. Well, that probably is not what's going to happen. If Bitcoin dumps 30%, the altcoins are going to feel the wrath. They're not going to be able to withstand it. You're going to see a lot of people hedging into things like Tether, and the volatility is most certainly going to come back, right? Now, having a look at the previous breakout that we had in the recent triangle, it was to the downside. This breakout or breakdown happened August 28th, right? We got to the end. We had no more place to go essentially, and we fell down. Now, since this point, some people were saying this could have been a little bit of a bear trap, but if we actually follow this trend, it's sort of putting in this sort of little mini wedge that we're inside of, but you're noticing that we're coming to the end of this right now. We tried to dip below it. We got pulled back in, but we don't have much more time. In fact, this little triangle doesn't even extend until tomorrow. It actually ends today. So that tells me that Bitcoin is going to, I don't know if it's going to have a massive like 15% move like we're seeing with XRP right now, but it could either try to pump up and break above that $10,700 level, or it could, fall out into some of these lower levels. But the thing is getting above the $10,700 level, sure, it would be, short-term bullish, but you really need to get above, in my opinion, this $11,000 level so that we can get higher than this wick. And then eventually you'd want to get higher than this $12,300 level. Reason being, if we don't, essentially all you're doing is just putting in lower highs, right? And that's not really particularly bullish, right? So we do need to put in some kind of a short-term higher high, even if it's just going above this wick right here at around that $12,330 level. Now, what I talked about yesterday was the potential of putting in a death cross, essentially, on the daily between the 50 and the 100 on the Bitcoin chart. And you can see right here, these guys are so close. I mean, they're almost touching right now. And if they cross, that would basically put in the bearish death cross. You can see right here, we were trying to put it in, but then essentially we sort of popped back up. Now, I did consider that to be short-term bullish, but when I say short-term, I'm talking like literally a day or two, because now we are in the same situation. But I want to show you something real quick, and stay with me. You can't always go by this, because these things can get very, very, very close and then not touch, and then it just explode apart. And I want to show you a situation actually with the opposite, where it did the opposite, okay? So in this situation, we're essentially looking for a potential death cross. Well, look, over here, this was back in December of 2014. The 50 was looking to, look, if I extend this line out right here, guys, and just show you basically, if you were to extend this looked like it wanted to, essentially cross, right? It was going to make a golden cross, but it didn't do that. And instead, the line ended up coming basically right next to each other, and essentially it just dipped. So yeah, that's basically that situation you could see right there. And how many people were probably like, okay, we're going to pump, and then nope, almost touch dump, right? So that was the people thinking it was going to be a golden cross, and it turned out to trick them. Well, this looks like it could be a death cross, but we could blast apart and it might just shake out the markets, right? That is the situation moving forward. But one thing that's been on my radar is essentially the volatility. That's what I was talking about yesterday and the day before, because when we have this super, super, super low volume, very, very minimal volatility, that's when you are due for these explosive moves. Now, what I have right here is essentially these green lines right here on the bottom. It's the Bollinger bandwidth, and it basically just gauges volatility, right? And I have these two purple lines right here that represent the last two times that we got below the level basically that we're at right now, which is, actually, it's more like 0.112, right? So back here when we had the massive basically dump at the end of November, we were putting in about a 0.04. All right. And then when we had the massive spike in the beginning of April of this year, we had a 0.09. Well, currently we are sitting at a 0.12. Now, just to put into perspective how high we can get at the peak right here, we were at a 0.76. Okay. So you could see that basically this blue zone down here, anywhere in that, and you're basically looking for a very big move. And I know on the channel we've been calling for a big breakout. Obviously we know it's coming, but like I'm actually not kidding when I say like we're going to have a big move. Like, I mean, it's going to happen within like the next like 24 to 48 hours for Bitcoin at least. So having a look at this, now this right here is the actual total market cap for everything. So you can see right here, it looks basically exactly like the chart. In fact, it was pretty much moving in tandem. The market was moving as one giant whole, and only just recently we actually have broken out of this resistance. So is this foreshadowing what Bitcoin is going to be doing, right? Because Bitcoin's not doing anything right now. Well, here's an interesting comparison I want you to look at. Now, what you're looking at right here is actually the Bitcoin chart overlaid with the altcoin chart. Now, Bitcoin is blue and altcoins are orange. I probably should have made Bitcoin orange because Bitcoin is orange, but I didn't. So Bitcoin is blue and the altcoins are orange. And you could see ever since about, basically when we fell off here in the massive dump in November, we've basically been, give or take, kind of following the same path. Now, you could see as we got over here, the altcoins started to sort of separate a little bit from Bitcoin. But even though they weren't making the same percentage gains, they were still sort of moving with Bitcoin. You could see Bitcoin was going up, altcoins were going up. Bitcoin had a little bit of a rocky, sort of up and down. So did the altcoins. Bitcoin dumped, the altcoins dumped. Bitcoin had a little, Bitcoin had a little pump. The altcoins had a little pump. But this is what is so strange. And it's what's happening right here. Whereas Bitcoin is having this like sort of downwards pressure, the altcoins are spiking up out of nowhere. Like, do you see how this doesn't really make sense with anything in the chart? So that's why my question is this manipulation? Are the whales just pumping the altcoins? Because last year what they used to do is they would pump like the top 10, then they would pump some mid caps, and then they would start pumping the gems, right? And that would really get the market stirring. So my question is, are they just trying to milk these altcoins before the next Bitcoin move to maximize their profits? Or is this just naturally, organically happening? Let me know, please. I want you guys to actually drop me comments today because I want your honest opinion on what you think, because I don't think anybody saw this coming. Any technical analyst that said the altcoins are going to start pumping, today, no. I mean, I was looking at the chart, it started breaching it, but really no one had full confirmation on it, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. If you actually look at the total market capitalization of all of crypto right now, you could see that in the past month, we're basically at the exact same level we were at before. So it's not like we have a bunch of new money in the market. It's not like we got flooded with all this brand new capital. So why are the altcoins pumping? Well, if we have a look over here at the money flow in the past 24 hours, you notice that the majority of the actual cryptos flowing to other cryptos are either from Tether or from Bitcoin. Let me show you what I mean. The amount of money, for example, Tether, that has gone into Bitcoin in the past 24 hours is 295 million, right? But how much, US dollars. Yeah, 295 million US dollars, whereas the amount of Tether has been 1.33 billion. But we're not talking about Bitcoin today. We're talking about altcoins. So here is the really interesting part. Let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum has been massively, massively pumping, right? Well, Ethereum has had $1.28 billion worth of Bitcoin flow into it. It's had $1.17 billion worth of Tether flow into it, but it's only had $205 million worth of USD flow into it. So this is showing you that there's not a lot of new money coming into the space, right? So it's not like we're having alt season and suddenly your mom, your grandma, your aunt is all calling you up on the phone like, "Hey, let me get some of those alts," right? In fact, I don't even think anybody even is paying attention to this. Like most people aren't paying attention to Bitcoin, out in the real world, right? Let alone paying attention to altcoins. So really, this is just sort of something that's happening within this bubble. And I think we need to be careful because until we have actually confirmation of breaking some of these serious resistances, I don't know if this is actually a full-on beginning to alt season or if this is just a bit of a fake out, whales trying to, squeeze every last drop out before the big price pump or dump before backed, right? That is what I think. And just to give you an example of what I'm talking about with some of these, key levels, like obviously this is Ethereum. On the 4-hour, Ethereum actually did put in 2 golden crosses, by the way. I spoke about that yesterday. So we're looking at Ethereum right now. Now you can see right here, Ethereum has had this sort of nice trend where it had this really nice support. And, once it even fell down here, it was still being supported by it. But once it pretty much was invalidated, that's when we dumped down to these lower levels. So I do think that currently for Ethereum to really get back on that bullish track and sort of, I guess, ease my mind to know that this is a real legit pump and it's not just like a flash in the pan kind of fluke thing, is to get back above this line. So essentially right now, I mean, if it was to go straight up, that would be around $230 for Ethereum. And if we were to get back on that line and start traveling upwards, well, then I would get extremely bullish and not financial advice, maybe even look to, put in like a long-term long or something like that, right? Whereas right now, it's kind of iffy what the coins are going to do next. Now, just so you guys know, if you do want to trade altcoins, I know we've been talking about Bitcoin a lot on this channel. There are 2 things that I do use. Now, obviously, you can just buy and hold. You can just hodl, right? But dollar cost averaging with altcoins, I don't know if it really works the way that we have a lot of evidence to show that it works with Bitcoin. Altcoins are a lot more volatile, right? So basically, you can use 3 commas. That's something that I do use to trade. Essentially, you just automate your trades. You have a certain buy, a certain sell. You could sell certain percentages at different times. Essentially, you just program it to do whatever you want because, that way if you're sleeping, you don't have to worry about waking up overnight and your coin dumped 15%. You can have it sort of automated, and it does give you a lot more features than what you would be able to do on something like Binance as well. And obviously, guys, not financial advice, especially with trading altcoins on something like Bybit. But I mean, you could see actually, it was crazy. I was going to tell you guys this morning that this looked like XRP wanted to do another leg up, but I didn't. Obviously, it pumped before my video. But, if you want to do leverage trading over on Bybit, you can do it with EOS. You can do it with XRP. Right here, you can see EOS had a nice little pump, and you can do it with Ethereum as well. But I just want to tell you guys, if you think Bitcoin is risky on leverage trading, the altcoins are like 10 times as risky, and I would not suggest beginners, to leverage trade with altcoins. But if you guys are interested, I do have, I do have a link for 3 commas. I will drop that above. And I also do have a link for Bybit. If you guys are interested, I do have links below. They do have actually a promotion going right now, $110 if you deposit 0.2 Bitcoin or the equivalent in Ethereum. So I will drop all of that above and below. But what I really wanted to talk about was this situation, this breaking news of the spike in overnight borrowing rates that forced the NY Federal Reserve, the New York Federal Reserve, to come to the rescue with a special operation aimed at easing stress in financial markets. So you could see it was the New York Fed's first such rescue operation in a decade, the last occurring in late, you guessed it, 2008, right? Our favorite year to talk about. So essentially yesterday morning, the Fed launched what's called the overnight repo operation, during which the central bank attempts to ease pressure in markets by purchasing treasuries and other securities. The goal is to pump money into the system to keep borrowing costs from creeping above the Fed's target range. Clearly, this cannot go on forever. You can see that they pumped $53 billion into the system, and they were talking about an additional $75 billion. Now, I'm not sure if they're actually going to do that. I think they're supposed to be having the meeting. I haven't checked up on it since yesterday, but you can see, according to Jim Bianco, CEO of Bianco Research, he says it's unclear what exactly is causing the stress in the overnight market or how it will last. No one knows why it's happening, but if it does persist more than a day or 2, it will become a problem. Well, It looks like it is persisting more than a day. Now, Rhythm says breaking the Fed just printed another $75 billion to correct the lending market. Let me know if that happened. I did not happen to catch that this morning, but either way, that's 16% of the entire $800 billion bailout from 2008, except that this was used in a single day and in a non-crisis situation. Now, the overall market cap of Bitcoin is less than $200 billion. Just think about these numbers. Think about what these guys are doing, right? It's absolutely crazy. You even have, Arthur Hayes pretty much chiming in on the conversation saying quantitative easing forever is coming. Once the Fed gets religion again, get ready for Bitcoin at $20,000. Now, this is the article over from Zero Hedge. If you guys want to read it, goes into much more depth, way more depth than I'm going to go into because we would just end up talking about it the whole time on this channel. But essentially, that's the situation. But you could see, even if the Fed doesn't get religion again, right, according to Hayes, money will continue to flood into the economy via central bankers, setting the stage for scarce and non-sovereign assets like Bitcoin, right? The European Central Bank cut its interest rates for deposits to, this site is so sensitive, I don't know why. Cut deposits to negative 0.5%. And then you also had the central bank revealing that it would be starting another round of quantitative easing, promising to purchase around $22 billion worth of bonds and other financial instruments every month in hopes that the economy will remain stimulated, right? People's Bank of China is also expected to activate easing policies. And according to Ding Shuang, chief economist for Greater China and North Asia, you can see right here, he says all other indicators show there is a strong case to cut rates, including real economic activity data yesterday, which was a confirmation of downside risks. Looking forward, if a large part of U.S. tariffs increases becomes effective, the downside risks are even bigger. So, what should we do about this? I'm just saying, maybe it's just saying, it's an option, guys. It's an option. But all right, I think that's enough about that situation moving forward. But yes, today is the official launch of Binance for US. Will I be joining? No. Why? Because I can't, because my state's not allowed. You can see right here, you have to actually provide pretty much your ID to prove that you're not from one of the 13 excluded states, which include Alabama, Alaska, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Louisiana, good old New York, North Carolina, Texas, Vermont, and Washington. But, I mean, who even cares anyway? They only have Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Tether, and Binance Coin. So, for everybody out there that's saying, like, what should I use? What should be the platform to use? Just use any of the other ones. I mean, guys, KuCoin works great. I use KuCoin all the time. BitMax you can use. They don't do KYC over a certain amount, right? If you guys are interested, I do have a link for KuCoin. That's probably what I'm going to be using. Either that or maybe Biaxi. I mean, it all depends, but obviously Binance US right now is just pointless to me. I don't really see a point in using it, but on the bright side, I do want to end on a positive note. You did have Arthur Hayes and CZ sort of getting into a little bit of a quarrel because they were talking about the liquidation that didn't happen because they, have it set to a certain index price. And then Arthur was like, next time I'm down in Singapore, CZ, please attend my Running a Crypto Derivatives Platform 101. I teach advanced copy control, paste methods, whatever. And he says, LOL, let me book the flight for you. Happy to attend any class to own 49% of any venture you run. I read the tweet again. It was misleading in the way it was written. I didn't mean the index price liquidation is our invention, but anyway, no edit button. So yeah, it looks like these guys are just kind of having a good time right now. So that's about it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Like I said, if you are interested, I do use 3 commas. If you guys want to do like spot market trading, it's obviously less risky than, trading altcoins on Bybit. Very risky. If you guys are interested, you guys are more than welcome to use the referral links below. But that is it for me, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. You guys are freaking amazing. Seriously, you guys get me excited. You're the reason that I do this every single day. And if you stayed all the way to the end and you're not subscribed yet, definitely get subscribed. But also, please let me know your opinion on this crazy situation right now, because I've been looking at these charts for quite some time,